Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Muntawakilu Amadu. I think I pronounced it right also. And my name is Frank Fiadufe. Please, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please, you're audible.
All right. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
All right. So, thank you so much. And I am really honored to be here. There have been a lot of distinguished speakers on this platform. And this platform is one that I mostly honor a lot. I think just about a month ago or less, we have my senior, ADO1, Mr. Abdul Rauf, presenting on fire investigation, which I was a part of, a very insightful lecture. And I'm really grateful to be here again. So I thank the Forensic Post so much, the leadership of the Forensic Post, as well as my organization, Prima Due Diligence Consult, for giving me this opportunity, allowing me to present on this platform. And also, I salute my senior man. I believe he is here. Mundus, I salute you so much. He's been my mentor all this while, and he's taught me a lot, and I've learned so much from him. And I'm glad that he is sitting under my lecture. It's a privilege. So today we are going to speak about malware forensics investigation, one which I themed as unraveling the digital threats landscape. Why do we have to speak about malware forensic investigation? I think the forensic field is still a growing field in Ghana. Not just Ghana, I think West Africa and Africa as a whole. Forensic field is a growing one, which is why I was really grateful when I was honored to sit under the lecture of ADO1 Abdul Rauf to speak about forensic fire investigation, which gave so much details on how investigation is done in the forensic arena relating to fire investigation. Today is going to be a bit different, but it's not going to be like the normal forensics that we do by going to the crime scene and all that. Although digital forensics also encompasses us going into the field and picking evidence, but most of our work is done on a computer, as I'll put it. I am saying this for the purpose of those who are not really in this field. There are a lot of people in this field that are part of this platform today, but to those who are not really in this field and are just having interest getting into it. Digital forensic is an aspect of forensic science. Forensic science is actually how do I put it? It's an applied science, so it encompasses various programs from different programs as well, and then we apply the forensics to it. So digital forensics is a part, which we are under the cybersecurity. So you apply the forensics to cybersecurity. So malware forensics is under digital forensics, and malware forensics is actually a growing field. So I hope that this lecture will educate us all, and then kind of whet our appetites in the area of digital forensics investigations. I believe if we pay so much attention to it, it will whet our appetites, those in academia, to even contribute in writing papers as well. Even if you want to join me in doing that, I'll be so happy, because that is something I am really into researching, really into malware forensics. Yes, so we'll go deeper into the unraveling digital threats landscape. So I work in Prima Diligence Consult, and I'm the Cybersecurity Forensics Intelligence Officer, as said earlier. Now, introduction. So we are going to discuss the overview of malware and its impact. With how things are going on in the world right now, everything has moved. I think from 2019 down to date, when the coronavirus struck, so many things have moved to the digital arena. So many things, almost everything that we do. It got to a time that even our churches were saying that being on Facebook and all those things weren't so good for us. And not just our churches, other religious organizations as well say those things, that those places are not really good. But when the COVID struck, most of the activities, even churches, were being conducted online, on Facebook, on Twitter, and all that. So most of our things, even banks now, people hardly even go to banks to do transactions. Almost everything, communications. We have friends that you haven't seen in years, but you're okay because you speak to them often. You exchange documents, you exchange chats, and all that. So all our things have moved to the digital arena, which is why it is important for us to protect ourselves online. It is very important, not just as individuals, but as organizations as well. Because I always say whenever I'm delivering a lecture to my clients that it's individuals that make up a company or organization. So my interest whenever I'm giving a lecture like this is to reach out to the individuals. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that build up an organization or even to an extent the nation. So malware is something that we have to know. And I always say, I was delivering a lecture to one of my clients' organization the last time, and I was telling them that malware is the number one and then leading in cyber attacks. Number one in cyber attacks. So when a cyber attack occurs, most of them, I think I read an article that says about 70 to 80% of the attacks that are done is with malware. But we shouldn't limit it to that, because even with malware being the first, the second after malware is human weakness. The second after that is human weakness. So we'll talk about all that, and then I think I have a share sometimes I have to keep in mind as well. So malware is short for malicious software. So malware, it's a short form of malicious and a software that is placed together as malware. It's a term encompassing various types of harmful software designed to exploit, damage, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems. So this is what is done. A hacker sits somewhere. It couldn't just probably be in the same space or in the same city, in the same country or something. It could even be cross borders. Somebody could sit somewhere and get into your system, do whatever he or she wants to do. Maybe he wants to just destroy your system, he wants to just slow it down, and whatever purpose it is. Cyber criminals are motivated by several motivations, so it depends. So the impact, this can lead to data breaches, of course. There are three main things that cybersecurity revolves around. That's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Those three are the most important. This means that this is to the organization level and even to individuals. We have to make sure that as an organization, whatever data that we have of our clients is always confidential. No third party gets access to it or even knows about it. It has to be confidential as always. It has to maintain its integrity, which means that no third party is able to attempt to even alter anything that is in the document. And then it has to be available whenever needed. Nobody has to just take advantage of it and then lock it up, encrypt it or something. It has to always be available. And this is what protects your integrity. This is what protects your integrity as an individual. Hello?
Please, your slides are not moving.
Yes. I'm still on the first page, yes.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yes. So this protects your integrity as an organization or individual, your financial stability as well. And even and if you allow yourself, it can lead to compromise your sensitive information, as integrity and all that. It disrupts normal computer operations, causing system crashes or even slowing your performance and data losses. Now, what is the importance of forensic investigation, like I discussed earlier? Malware forensic investigation is crucial in understanding the anatomy of cyber threats. So when a cyber threat occurs, when a cyber forensic or a digital forensic comes in, with our malware forensic experts, when they get to the scene, they want to understand how the attack occurs, what it caused in the system, and then how we can remediate from that or even mitigate. So it plays a pivotal role in identifying the source, purpose, and scope of malware attacks. We'll go into these details as we move on. So the agenda of the day is we'll identify what malware is, then we'll classify malwares, we'll talk about the common attack vectors, we'll talk about malware lifecycle, when a malware attacks your system, what the processes that it goes through. We'll talk about malware forensic investigation, what we go through every day whenever there is a malware attack. Then we'll do the forensic process overview, and then we discuss malware analysis, and then we'll also talk about some recommendations and all that. So as we go on, we get to. Please, my slide moving now. Mr. Monta Wakilo, is my slide moving now? Not yet.
Not yet moving. It's still, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's now moving.
Is it okay now?
Yeah.
All right.
So you're on slide number 4.
All right, good. So we want to talk about what malware is. Like I discussed earlier, malware is any software that, when in your system, kind of disrupts your normal processes, slows it down, steals your information, or even destroys your network. That's what a malicious software is known as. That's a malware. It's any software at all that does something that causes harm to a user. So we have genuine softwares that are available that we use on our systems. Of course, any system at all runs on a software. Every system at all runs on a software. So it is either it is malicious or it is genuine. The malicious ones are what we call the malwares. Okay. So they include viruses. I think viruses, most of us know it. The Trojan horses. The Trojan horses are those that pretend to be genuine processes or genuine softwares. When you install them, they tend to do whatever they want to do in your system. The worms, they replicate themselves in your system. We have the rootkits, the scarewares. The scarewares, I think this is what we experience on a daily basis, even in our organization as individuals. You'll be browsing something on the internet, and then an image will just appear on it that telling you that you have to install this antivirus to take care of the malwares on your system because they are malwares. Then there'll be some pop-ups will be coming that there is malware in your system, there is malware. Then when you install the antivirus, what it does is that it only takes away the popping popping malware that they claim is on your system. It only takes it away. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't do anything. That's the scareware. Adware, which are the kind of malwares that we take advantage of on our daily basis. We take advantage of because they are just popping adverts. I think we have an image here to show what an adware is. This is how an adware looks like. Can you see, Mr. Monta? Is it visible on my slide?
Yeah, you are visible, but we are still on slide number 4. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me see something. Is it visible now?
Slide number 7. Yeah.
Is the image showing?
Yeah, it's showing. You are on slide number 7.
All right. So with this image, this is an adware. This is how an adware may appear on your system when you are using it and all that. So I'll go back to my slide. So this is slide number 4. I'm still on slide number 4 now. I'm back to slide number 4. So the spywares are also there. We have botnets, logic bombs. They kind of deal with times and events. They set it in your system. They'll be invisible until the event that is set to it is up. We have fireless malwares that runs in your memory. That doesn't leave any track on your hard disk for it to be determined during hard disk forensics. Malvertising. This kind of bring adverts just like the adverts does as well. The mobile malwares, these are designed malwares purposely for your mobile phones. Polymorphic malwares, these are malwares that changes form. They encrypt themselves. And we have the metamorphic malwares as well that kind of rewrite itself with time. We have the banking trojans that kind of steal banking credentials and all that. So all right. So classification of malware. Malware can be classified based on whether the attacker's objective is mass or targeted. If you are in the field of cybersecurity or digital forensics, you will know about phishing and spear phishing. So this operates just like that. With a mass malware, this operates like a scareware, whereby it is just on your browser. So if you click it, fine. It's just there for everybody. It's short. You see how a shotgun is when the pellets are small, so it's spread with distance. So it's just short, like a phishing. Whoever picks it, fine. But with targeted malware, this is the difficult one. This is the difficult one because before a criminal kind of send a malware to your system, which is targeted, they kind of exploit your vulnerabilities. They know your system and the vulnerabilities. They kind of determine your open ports, those that are available, the weaknesses in it before the attack. So these ones is difficult for even our antivirus to even detect them, or our cybersecurity products to even protect us from it. So targeted malwares are the dangerous ones that we have to be very careful of. Mass malwares, we can always escape from it. Once you don't submit to it, we are okay. So now, this is an image of a ransomware. This is how a ransomware looks like when you are attacked with it. This is how a ransomware looks like. And then this is how an adware looks like. Then Trojan horse, like I said, Trojan horse can affect your system. Your system will still be looking like this, as if nothing is happening. And it can do whatever it wants to do in your system. You probably won't even notice if you are not cyber inclined or something. Sometimes you just notice your system is slowing down and all that. You think it's normal because your laptop or machine is growing older and all that. So Trojan horse can be in your system and it will give you no image to even show or notification to even show that you are infected. That's how Trojan horse is, okay? So now we talk about the common attack vectors. The common attack vectors that malwares actually pass through to infect us. The first is infected USBs and removable media. Infected USBs. Most of us just connect any drive at all into our systems without even scanning it. We just put it through. Some of us, even if we put it through, and then our systems alert us that the drive is infected, because we still need the movies at all costs, we go ahead and open it. And the removable media, just like our drives and external drives and all that we just slot in our system anyhow. Phishing attacks, like I mentioned. Phishing attacks. This can be a spear phishing or a mass one, whereby it can come through even email attachments. It's part of it, calls and SMS and all that, sending you links for you to click, redirecting you to malicious sites for you to download. There are drive-by downloads, whereby when you go on the internet, you are browsing, you just want to download something, you unintentionally download malwares. Social engineering, which phishing attacks fall under. The attacker kind of deceive you or trying to establish a rapport with you, which will allow you yourself, they will allow you yourself to even install the malware on the system. You might not even be aware of it. You might not even be aware of social engineering. Malicious websites. As I explained by the drive-by downloads, you visit some websites that are very malicious. They have malwares attached to it. You just go there. Once you go there, you unintentionally automatically download the malware onto your system. They are watering hole attacks. This is the kind of attack whereby with a group of people and they are whatever they are interested in, the attacker kind of use that to, so for instance, a group of individuals in a space that are so addicted to watching porn, So a website can be created, a malicious website can be created in form of a porn website. People will surely go there to download porn movies or even watch. Once you go there, you download malwares onto your system. That's a very, I think that's a very nice example to give about the triple attacks. Most of the youth now are into porn and all that, so I think that's a good one. Now we come to the malware life cycle. Malware life cycle. When a malware gets into your system, what does it do? Or what are the processes that it passes through to infect your system? The first one is infection. That is, the infection has two stages where there is entry point, there is execution. The entry point is where whatever point that it passes through to, so it can be the common attack vectors that I mentioned, the phishing attacks, the email attachments, social engineering, malicious websites, and all that. They can be that. Then after that, then there is an execution. So after the malware gets into your system, it has to be executed. There are different processes that we go through. I will tell you one of the cases that I handled as an example. So, cyber criminals are becoming smart now. They think they are becoming smart. So that is when the cyber threat intelligence is really necessary. Have a certificate in that. So one of our clients that we worked for, he was a disgruntled employee. So what he did was that because he did something very bad and he knew he was going to be sacked at the end of the day, he actually installed a malware onto his system, onto the system, and he was connected to the company website network. So just like a worm, it was just spreading across and all that. So when we got to the scene and we recovered everything during the analysis, he forgot that, he just said he didn't know, and the link was sent to him and he just clicked it. Immediately he clicked it. That attack happened. So it was not his fault. It's because he wasn't cyber aware. And of course, the company doesn't spend money in cyber awareness. So they accepted it. But as a cyber forensic expert, we have one who executed the malware, or he was the one. We have a way of doing that. So we determine the entry points and then the exports and all that. So what we do is that with the export, we have to identify certain things in the system that will tell us whether the malware was kind of installed by itself or you installed it. So we call something the install service main. Then we have install A and install A. We identify all those things in the export. We identify all those things in the export to even determine whether the person ran. So if a malware is having all these things, install A and install A, it's having the service install and all that, that means the malware needs all these exports to even function at the first place, which means that the malware cannot execute by itself. So it needed someone to kind of ways to do our research is that we have to download the file and then or write your own file. That one's you can make it executable or not, that depending on you. But if you download the malware, you have to make it executable by changing the file name to .exe. Actually needed to be made an executable because it had all these exports. That's how I solved that case. The point that we have to be very, very careful of. We have to be very, very, very careful. At the point when I was doing my research, and the first time I attempted a research in malware forensics, I ran the malware on my system. I didn't really know about protecting my system, isolating it, and all that before running the malware. So I just went ahead and I ran my system. Up to now, I'm not able to use the laptop anymore. The laptop is there. I had to take the RAM out of it and even the ROM. And the propagation state, the reason I gave that example is that at least I had a little knowledge on malware and I know how the replication is done. Because I was on the public Wi-Fi and I realized that it was about spreading, I had to immediately cut it off. I will give a lecture on that as well as we move on. We'll talk about how to remediate from this. So the replication is very important. Once you stay on the network, it will have a network transmission, especially when it has a WEM-like active attributes. It will just spread across the networks and even innocent people be infected as well. Then execution, there's a payload activation. So malwares have their payloads kind of in them. So what happens is that when it is time for the activation, that's when the payload can be in a form of stealing data or even slowing down your system and whatever it is. So execution is when this thing is done. But whilst that is being done, there's a communication that has been established. Now, this is the most important part for us as data forensics, one of the most important part of us for us. So we have to establish which network or IP address this communication is being done to, because for the payload to actually be activated, there has to be a communication between we have something we call CNC. We call something CNC. What happened? The command and control service. The command and control service. So it has to establish a connection so that if it has to steal data, it has to take the data back to the attacker, or the attacker has to get access to your whole system and even try to encrypt it, delete it, or whatever he wants to do with it. So communication is important. Now, what malware does, especially the modern malwares that come, they hide. They hide. So after infecting your system, propagating and executing, and doing whatever it wants to do, it hides. So it does rootkit installation. When we talk about this, it means it kind of does something in your system whereby it will not be noticed. It hides itself. Then we have anti-analysis techniques. This can be in different forms. Sometimes these malwares can be polymorphic. Where they kind of hide behind. Can I continue?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, there are anti-analysis techniques that they kind of hide. Most of these malwares actually have a system in place that if you try to run them in a sandbox or even an isolated system, probably in your virtual box or something to run to actually run dynamic malware analysis, you will never find these malwares because they have these things installed in them, these codes written that they kind of flee from them. So once they notice that, yeah, once they notice that they are in a sandbox or an investigation, once they notice they are in an environment being investigated, they kind of hide themselves. Now there is persistence, registry modifications. Yes, most malwares kind of does this thing. They kind of modify your registry so that even if you want to reboot your system, it will come up, just like the auto start mechanisms. So that once you do a boot up, it repeats itself again. So that if a malware affects your system and you turn it off and you turn your machine on again, then it's gone. No, they have a registry modification. They modify your registry so that once you return your machine, you reboot, it comes on again. It comes on again. So this is the malware life cycle. It goes to the infection, the propagation, execution, then they hide themselves, and then there is persistence so that they keep occurring over and over again. Now, I mentioned something about how malwares can hide themselves. This is an example of a case whereby a malware is hiding behind genuine processes. If you go through all these processes here, I don't know if my mouse is visible, but if you go through all these processes here, there are normal processes that are run by Windows OS. But if I tell you that these processes, some of them are infected by a malware, you won't believe it. So if you are a malware analyst and then you just view the process in line, they are just genuine processes following each other in order, and you don't go on to do your analysis, you will end up leaving a system still infected, and it might even spread across and do worse things in your system. So this is an example. This is a volatility tool running on PowerShell that we use to identify malwares in running processes during memory forensics of processes in Windows OS. These are all genuine processes, but there is malware. Now, malware forensic investigation, the purpose of forensic investigation. What is the purpose? Now, when we get to a crime scene, we identify the source and purpose of a malware. So when we are called to a scene, we want to identify actually the case I just told you about. First, we don't just go in to find out probably who the first thing that we want to do is the source attribution, where the malware came from. But the most important part of this, we want to identify what the malware is doing in the system, which is the behavioral analysis. So we identify what the malware tends to do in the system, because in malware forensics, people say in cybersecurity, time is of essence. But in malware forensics, time is of much essence than the general cybersecurity. Because the least minute you waste will give the cyber criminal an average overview. Just a little second. Yes. Because so for us, we analyze the behavior so that we can remediate the situation. So source attribution is good for us in identifying the source, probably identify who the attacker came from, and all that, or how it came into the system through downloads or through USBs, infected USBs, or if it's intentional, we identify that, and then we do behavior analysis. But behavior analysis is more important to us than the source attribution. Then we collect evidence. The purpose of forensic investigation is to collect evidence for legal actions. So after you determine the source of the attack, we want to do digital forensic. You want to take legal actions against the cyber criminal in case you know them and all that. So digital evidence collection is very important. It's very important. Chain of custody, which runs across all forensic processes. Chain of custody is very important. For your evidence to be admissible in court, it's important to do chain of custody. It's very, very important. Incident response, timely action, mitigation strategies is very important. The case I just handled, That's, I think, ended about 2-3 days ago. This case wasn't in the country, it's out of the country. This case was a very difficult one, although it is not malware, but it has to do with attackers spoofing another person's genuine website and creating multiple websites out of it, and then this thing telling the clients to taking the clients to their fake websites instead of the genuine one. And it took so much resources to investigate those things as well. So incident response is very important. When you call a cyber forensic or malware forensic, we do timely action, which I mentioned earlier. That time is of much essence. Now, there is a cycle that we go through as we move on to know how to remediate yourself from a malware. But you have to have an expertise. So I wouldn't advise that without the expertise you try to do it by yourself. You might end up escalating things. So it's better to give you mitigation strategies. Then strengthening cybersecurity posture is one of the purposes of forensic investigation. So as we do whatever we are doing in the system to recover to normal business, we learn and adapt. So even the IT team, we work with them. We don't just work on our own. When we get into an organization and we are working for them, we work with their IT team. Mostly they also have their cybersecurity team. So we work with them as well. So during that, they learn on the job and adapt. Then they also, during the investigation, they also learn proactive security. So that same attack doesn't happen in the future, or even a similar one doesn't happen in the future. Although you cannot protect yourself from all attacks that may come because of 0-day, you'll be able to protect yourself from most of them, which is very important. Yes, that's why forensic investigation is very important. Now, look at this. You can protect yourself so much, and even your company and your organization. But as I mentioned from the beginning, the user is the weakest link. So aside malware, which is the leading in cyber attacks, human error is the second, and it's the weakest link. So you can have the best IDS system, the best IPS, the best DLP and patch management, all your systems are up to date and all that. But the user can give the easiest access, the user, which is why we have to, as these trainings are very important. Again, I applaud the forensic post once again for organizing this session. So it's very important as a user, because at the end of the day, it might not be about organization.
Hello, guys.
Hello. Can I continue, please?
Yes, continue.
All right.
Yeah, you can continue.
All right. The user is the most important part of it. You have to pay attention to the user. That is why it's very good. And Prima Due Diligence Consult, where I work, we that is very important to us. We educate organizations on cyber awareness. And also, if you're working in an organization and this what we do in case you call us onto the scene in case of a malware attack, what we do. The first point for us is acquisition of evidence. Now, one of the papers I wrote, which has been accepted to be published soon, is to be available online very soon. This is a framework that I developed out of my research that I did. So the first point you see the data evidence, which is, it can be your laptop, your phone, your organization system and all. So when you call us onto the scene, we take that digital evidence. We take it, whatever way it is, we take it. Then we create an image of it. It can be not just any image at all. We create a forensic image of it. With this research that I did, the tool that I used was FTK Imager to create an image of it. Then we have to do investigations. So we have live forensics, we have hard disk forensics, we have memory forensics. Live forensics is when you leave the system running whilst you investigate. You investigate a is still running. It's more like a dynamic kind of analysis, dynamic kind of malware analysis. So that's how live forensics is. Then the hard disk forensics is there. With this research that I did, I use autopsy, and then the memory dump, I use volatility tool, which runs on PowerShell. Windows PowerShell looks like. It's how the Windows PowerShell is a tool for malware investigation. So because of legal processes, which I mentioned earlier, the hash integrity is very important to us, because sometimes you can create a forensic image of whatever data evidence that you want to analyze, and then it can be exchanged. So when you're doing the autopsy, when you want to check the hash integrity, the hashes are different. We can use the MD5 and SHL1 and all that. So we check to make sure that there is integrity before we proceed. So if you see here, you realize that I said if the integrity is the same, then you proceed. If no, you stop investigation immediately, because at the end of the day, this will never be accepted in the court of law. Now, this is how the hashes look like. This is how the hashes looks like. We compare and we know that it is the same before we proceed. So now that the thing is the same, we move on. Now I'm talking about hard disk forensics, how we do hard disk forensics. So these are the locations that you can check in case after your investigation you suspect that the malware was downloaded. You can just what we do is that we check the users. We check the users of the system to know who actually the attack came from, because there are certain organizations that uses one system, and then there are different shifts. So I come at 12 p.m. I log in. When I'm leaving at 6, I log out. Another person comes to log in. So when I'm doing malware forensic investigation, the users is very important to determine who the attack might have come from. The app data, it's important to check the app data, as they have the information about all the apps that have been accessed on your machine. The run programs. For a malware to be active on your system or to be activated, it needs to be run. So we check the run programs and extensions. It's important. Just like the case I told you we investigated before, checking the exports to find out what happened. The extensions is very important. Extensions, you check the extensions to know whether it is .exe files, whether it's executable or whatever it is. We check the shellbacks, you check the web history to know if the person has been researching about this same thing over and over again, or if the person was redirected there to download it by mistake, or if it was he or she was aware of what he was doing. Then you check the downloads to see if the malware was downloaded there. Now, if your suspicious file is confirmed, then you go and extract the suspicious file for malware analysis. So what we don't do it just with our investigation, just a forensic way. We attach it with the normal malware analysis to know the functionality of the malware you are analyzing. After you do your forensic things, you extract the suspicious file, and we do the real malware analysis, which is static and dynamic analysis. There are several other ways, but the reason we always limit it to static and dynamic, because most of the other types of analysis are all under dynamic. We can do all of those things. The network analysis and all that, they are all under dynamic, which is why we always classify it as static and dynamic analysis. So you extract. Now with the memory analysis, we use volatility tool. We check the PS list, the PS3, the malfind, the dump files, to know which processes the malware is using, and the kind of processes that the malware is spoofing. So we have new processes that the malware is trying to use. So when you access it, to tell you how the malware is, the process IDs and the parent process IDs that the malware is generating from. So these are the command line to detect malicious file in the processes running the memory. So if the malware is confirmed, then you extract your file. If it is not confirmed, that means that the malware is deliberately evading detection. Like I said earlier, that some of the malwares are very stubborn. They try to evade detection. So it's either there is a false positive or the malware is trying to. If in the case of memory analysis, if the malware is not seen, that means it's trying to evade detection. But in the case of hard disk forensics, that means that there might be a possibility of a false positive. So after that, you go into your real malware analysis. Just like I mentioned that we analyze every file on the system. So you can see here downloads, then you see the malware folder. Those things to arrive at our conclusions. So now that we have done all this, now we want to understand what's the malware, the functionality of the malware. You know, our lecturers back in school in the days will always tell you that malware analysis is a cat and mouse game. It's a cat and mouse game. It's like you chasing and running, chasing, running. Because once you are trying to respond to this kind of malware, the attacker is also bringing new things, which is why you have to always be on your edge. You have to always be chasing. You have to be the cat here. You have to always you have to potential a kind of safe way of analyzing malware. So there are tools that are there. You just drag the malware into the tool. You don't run it. So basic static analysis can confirm whether a file is malicious by providing information about its functionality, its certificates, imports, compilation dates. Based on this information, the analyst can create an IOC and use it for further investigation. IOC is just indicator of compromise. So it's to further investigation. The advanced static has to deal with an in-depth examination. But just like the basic static, you also don't run the malware. But this one gives you a more in-depth analysis of the malware. So when we come to basic static, we can use tools like the virus total to determine the hashes of the file. So this is an example of PID to determine the subsystems, the entry point, which is very important, the entry point. This entry point becomes very important, very, very important when dealing with polymorphic and metamorphic malwares, especially polymorphic. When the malware is polymorphic, because it tries to hide itself by encrypting itself, changing into different forms. So the best way we use in identifying polymorphic malwares is to the entry point. So it's very important. And then we also determine whether the malware has been packed. When you see the EP section here, you see UPX1, which means that the malware has been packed. What happens is that it's just like you having a big file on your system, then you want to make it smaller, you kind of zip it to make it smaller. That's what the malware analysts do. But their main reason for doing that is for the malware to be undetectable on your system. And so that it doesn't become so big on your system. It's in kilobytes. So they kind of pack it into kilobytes. So even if in your system, you don't even identify it. So there are different packets that we use. The UPS1 is one of them. Then we check the file offset. So this is PID2 for static analysis. Then we kind of identify. Virus total is there as well with several engines, several response engine, whereby if you put a malware in the virus total, it tells you all the engines that have identified that malware. So sometimes what happens, let me tell you this, is that you can put a malware or a file, let's say a suspicious file, in virus total, and it will not give you any indication as if the malware is the file is genuine. But you might not end there because it's probably because those engines haven't identified it as a malware yet. If it's a zero-day activity, you probably won't have it identified in virus total. Which is why it is important. Virus total is just one of the static analysis steps in dealing with malwares. So after that, no matter the results you get, you still continue to do your investigation. So right from static analysis, we do dynamic analysis. We go deeper into dynamic analysis. So unlike static malware analysis, dynamic malware analysis is conducted by analyzing the code while it is running. You analyze the code while it is running. So to study the behavior of the executable, you have to run it in a virtual system or even a sandbox, like I mentioned earlier. But you have to, in case you want to go into investigation into this, you can contact me privately, and I will show you how to set up your virtual lab system. You create it, even a sandbox and all that. You know how to do it so that you don't infect your system. You don't end up destroying your RAM and your hard disk, because it's very easy. It's very easy to infect your system. It's very easy. So dynamic analysis helps us to understand the functionality of a malware and then prevent it from spreading, because we run the malware. It's just like how the malware is working. I told you earlier that malwares are sophisticated nowadays to an extent that they kind of detect virtual lab environments. So what we do is that when a malware is running your system, they have to connect with their servers. They have to connect with their servers to make a communication. So they establish that with the attacker. So it has to be connected to the internet. And hereby, you are scared to be connected to the internet because of spreading. So there are several ways we do this. By sometimes we use fake net, and then if you don't want to use fake net, you can use your private network. But you have to know how to do your network setup. If you know how to do your network setup, you are good to go. Now we have to the tools that we use. Some of the tools that we use as process monitors, the process explorer, the red shot, the init sim, the Wireshark. These are all tools that we use in dynamic analysis. So this is a process monitor which analyzes malware in real time. So you run the malware. So if a malware is in your system, this particular malware that I just ran, if it's in your system, this is what it's doing, but you are not able to see this. It's able to create files, read files, the paths that it is passing through and all that, the offsets. This is what it is doing in your system. This is what it is doing. So this is the malware tool.exe. It is creating files as well as reading files, loading images, downloading. So you can able to see this in the registries that it is accessing. You'll be able to see all those things in real time with their timestamps and the process names and the parent IDs, the kind of operations it's doing to give you the results, whether it is a success, to give you all those details. That's process monitor. It's a system internal tool. I think I wanted to say something. Good. Now, about adwares. I wanted to say something about adwares. Adwares we take for granted these days. Even up to now, we take for granted. But one of the research that I did, which I used adware at a point, I realized that the codes, when you do reverse engineering, those who are into reverse engineering, you realize that some of the codes that are written for certain adwares, certain codes for spywares are incorporated. So even though it is an adware on your system, which you don't pay attention to because, of course, it's just an advert, it will go away anyway. It just pops up and go, pops up and go. So it doesn't do anything on your system. You think it's okay. There are spywares incorporated into it. So what is just giving you an advert, it's spying on you. Whatever you are doing on your system, it is connecting with servers somewhere and giving results to it. This is what happens. This is what happens, which was we have to take notice of. Now, challenges in malware forensic investigation. Challenges in malware forensic investigation. Malware is becoming sophisticated now and is creating several challenges. Not just to organizations, but even to the malware, with the malware experts as well, with those in the field of tackling malware incidents, not just malware incidents. We are in the cybersecurity. So although my specialty is malware, we still do every other case that comes with cybersecurity as well. So rapidly advancing tactics. Rapidly advancing tactics. This is something that is happening. Certain malwares, in fact, most malwares that have been developed now are so sophisticated. And they are made in such a way that they are even able to escape your antivirus detections. And even when you are analyzing it, you don't see anything at all. With the volatility tool that I just showed you with the evidence that is there, you realize that the malware is there, but it's not showing. It doesn't mean it is not there. So it makes the work of the malware expert or malware investigator very difficult. By the end of the day, we have to get to the root of it. Fileless malware. These are causing so much problems. careless malwares are causing so much problems because they only run in the RAM. So they don't leave any trace on the hard disk for you to identify. So what happens is that once you don't get the RAM in time, or probably if the RAM is turned off, that is it. You don't get anything. But I was reading something about cybersecurity the last time, and I came across a very good thing I want to share with you. There is a research that has come up now that you can you see, what we always know that data in RAM cannot be accessed after some time. Now there is a research whereby you can protect data in RAM by freezing it to a certain degrees. I think to 50 degrees, minus 50 degrees or something, or yes, minus 50 degrees, something like that. So you can freeze it, and then it protects the data. It keeps it intact for you. So whenever you're ready, you access it. That is a wonderful advance in malware investigation. So when you have your data in your RAM, you don't have to worry so much. Although it's not really accepted yet, it's a growing research, and I hope that most of us here that will have interest in this will go into that as well, freezing RAM to maintain the data in it. Evasion of sandboxing techniques, just like I mentioned, there are most malwares that are developed. I've in my career as a malware analyst, I've investigated a lot of malwares, and most malwares have the technique of evading sandbox. So when you want to run them in the sandbox, some of them will not even run at the first place. And some, if you are running them, you won't find anything on them. They will hide behind genuine processes, which is why when you are creating a virtual environment to run a malware, there are certain specifications that have to be met. Now, how does this, somebody will ask that, how does this malware know that it is running in a virtual environment? Of course, mostly what we do is that when you are creating a virtual environment to run malwares, you kind of are pushing a certain amount of hard disk a certain amount of memory to your virtual environment. Sometimes we don't give it network and all that. These are the things that the malware has been programmed to detect. So once it detects that this system is running on a very probably 20 gig, you give it 20 gig or something, it realizes that no, this is not a traditional environment. This is a virtual one, so it will not run. Even if it runs, you won't find anything on it. Then there are encrypted and obfuscated payloads. There are certain payloads that are there that are encrypted. So even if you will not find anything, just like the polymorphic ones, they are encrypted. And the obfuscated ones, when you're doing reverse engineering, you want to understand the code, you won't understand it because they've been obfuscated. So what happens is that the codes are in a way that you won't understand at all. You won't understand. So these are also challenges in forensic investigation that we pay attention to. We stay abreast to make sure that we understand all these things and know how it's going. Polymorphic and metamorphic malware. This is very important for us as malware analysts because polymorphic malwares, what they do is that they encrypt themselves and also kind of changes form over time. So once they are there, once in a while, they change in the form regarding time. They self-encrypt and change time. But I mentioned earlier that to detect this kind of malwares, the polymorphic malware, we do it through the entry point algorithms and the generic description technology. There is something we call generic description technology. That's what we use in analyzing polymorphic malwares. When it comes to metamorphic, these are malwares that are able to rewrite themselves. So when you get it, it is different from the first malware that was installed in your system. When it is there in a while, it will rewrite itself. So the code becomes different from the first code that was written. When you are into malware C++ and all that, you understand what I'm talking about better. It kind of rewrites itself. So the detection that we use for metamorphic malwares is geometric detection. And by using emulators for tracing, there are certain emulators that we use to trace metamorphic malwares or geometric. These are also ways that we use. So these are the challenges, but we also, as forensic investigators, we find ways to deal with it. Targeted and APT attacks. These attacks are attacks that we have to pay attention to. These advanced persistent threats. That's the full meaning of APT. So this attack, before they come to you, they are targeted. So they kind of investigate on you. I was telling some of our clients the last time we were giving an education to them that before somebody attacks you, the person can spend a month, a year, or even more on you just to find a loophole before they attack. So if it is a targeted attack, it becomes difficult to escape from it because the person finds a loophole before attacking. That's why targeted and APT attacks are challenges in the malware forensics investigation field. Then global collaborations, which are very important. There are certain times that these malware attackers are not even from the same area as you. They are not in the same country. You don't have your jurisdiction doesn't even allow you to do anything to them. So even get them, you can't do anything. The legal and privacy consents. You want to access certain things. They are legal consents to protect the identity of the individuals. Somebody was even saying the last time, one of our clients was saying that it seems like the law protects criminals even more than we those in the field of investigating them. Yes, because just look at the normal forensics, for instance, during fingerprinting. You can't just access people's data and even when you get a fingerprint, kind of compare it to it. You can't do that. These are privacy concerns. So you can't just want to investigate somebody and just get into their system. These are all privacy concerns. These are problems in malware forensics that we face. Now, future trends in malware and forensic investigations. The zero-day exploits, which are very important. These are future trends in malware and forensic investigation. New exploits keep coming in, day out, that we are not aware of as malware analysts. So we have to always be on the run, always be on the move, always doing researches to make sure that we stay up to date. So that even if you don't know about it, and once it comes, you are ready to respond to it. So response is very important in zero-day exploits. AI-driven malware. Most of the malwares that are being made now are being made by AI, so they are able to, like fileless malwares like this. They have some of the malwares have their rootkits to evade detection. So this AI-driven malwares. I was speaking to a colleague today, and I was telling him that he is into AI, and I was telling him that I want to do a research where I'll use AI to determine malwares. That's the next research that I want to do. So I was telling him to get back to me later on. Probably after this, we'll have an investigation. We will have a talk on that, how to do that. It's very important. Then fileless malware sophistication, which is very rampant nowadays. Fileless, they only run on the RAM. So once it's off, but thanks to technology now, that's like the research I just mentioned, it's accepted that we use that in our legal RNS and it's accepted. Well, it's probably good. You can freeze RAM to a certain extent and then you get data that is on it. Supply chain attacks, which is very important nowadays. Supply chain attacks. It's when you read about the SolarWind attack in the US in 2020, I think. SolarWind provides a network protection for several other government agencies in the US, but it was attacked. And once the supply chain is attacked, it either cuts connection to all other chains that are, all other companies that are with it, or what it does is that it gets access to those companies as well. So this is an attack that happened. It's a very common attack that happened in the US. I think it's everywhere in 2020, where most government agencies, even the federal government, was affected by it. Blockchain-based threats. Now, there are a lot of things happening that there are a lot of threats coming in the area of cryptocurrencies. What happens now? Just look at cryptojacking, for instance, whereby your machine is there. What happens in cryptojacking is that when people are, they call something crypto mining. Yes, mining of Bitcoin. I think that's the word. When they are mining Bitcoins, you realize that it consumes so much resources. It runs on so much resources when you are mining Bitcoin. In case you don't know, it takes charge of your system, and if you don't take time, you can't run any other thing on your system anymore because it consumes a lot. So with cryptojacking, what happens is that because the people don't want to make their system tired in a short time, or even get their systems wiki in a short period of time after they buy it and all that. They kind of send malwares onto your system that once you click, they use your machine to mine their crypto or to mine their bitcoins. So you'll be there whilst you're working on your system. If you have your machine is overheating or is slowing down so much, somebody is probably using your machine to mine Bitcoin or mine crypto. This is what happens. And one of the cases that happened, a ransomware attack that happened in the US in 2021 about Colonial Pipe attack. I don't know if you've heard of it, Colonial Pipe. The Colonial Pipe is what provides fuel to most of the pipelines in the US. And it got hacked in 2021, a ransomware attack, where the attackers demanded 75 Bitcoin. 75 Bitcoin at the time in that period was around $4.4 million. It's around $4.4 million. So that's what they took from the company before giving them the decryption key for them to get back to business. But thanks be to the developments in malware and forensic investigation, they were able to retrieve 60 Bitcoin from them. Just that at the time, the value of the Bitcoin dropped, so they were able to get at least $2.37 million or something. Yeah, so the people made away with almost $2.1 million. So this is what happens. We know that blockchain, people say the best way to do these things is to use Bitcoin because it cannot be traced. Now, thanks to technology, Bitcoin can be traced. The first have been done in the US. IoT-based threats. I always tell my clients that this is becoming rampant because most homes are interconnected now, almost everything, even our cars. When I was in India, I was taking a course in vehicle forensics. That's most of the cars that are made now are interconnected. So if you don't take time, you can be driving your car, and if it is hacked, someone will be controlling your steering wheel in their house. So you are going right, the person is moving left. These are the cause of several accidents. These are IoT-based threats. Not just that, telemedicines are coming up now. A lot of robotic surgeries are coming up now. A lot of things in IoT. Yes, cloud security challenges. Cloud security challenges is very important because now malware is also targeting cloud. So even with ransomware, for instance, because they know that most people have their backups on the cloud, most of them have their backups on the clouds. They attack your system and then attack the clouds as well, so that you don't get. Because if you have backup, you'll probably let them do whatever they want to do. You restore your system back to normal. So they are also targeting cloud. That's why cloud security is very important now. Automation and orchestration, which is also in the AI-driven malware, like I mentioned earlier. These malwares are now automated, so you don't need to probably change the name of the file on your system. Once you download it, it's installed, and it will start doing whatever it wants to do, start activation and all that, which is why. So these are the future trends in malware and forensic investigation we have to pay so much attention to. Now, remediation and recommendation. So what do you have to do? The first one is isolation. So when you are on a public network and you realize that you have been infected by malware, the first thing you have to do is to unplug. If you are using a desktop, unplug and let the machine go off by itself. Unplug and let the machine go off by itself. If you are using a laptop, put it off immediately using the power button. Put it off immediately, because this also happens in certain ways that this is just to prevent the malware from spreading in case it has a worm-like features. It doesn't spread across the network. This is to just save it. It doesn't mean that once you put your machine off or something, the attack stops. No, there are different ways. There are certain times that there are things showing on your machine that files keep deleting. For that one, if you turn your machine off, probably you may be able to save the rest of the files. But if it is not that, it doesn't do anything. It just prevents you from spreading the malware across the networks. Uninstalling is a very important thing. What happens is that when a malware gets into your system, it tries to install suspicious files on your system to be able to run. So what you have to do is to just go to your control panel, go to programs, select program and features, Check all the programs that you have on your system. You know the programs on your system. The ones that seem suspicious, try deleting them. Try deleting them. If you don't delete them, they keep working. So the best thing is to delete them so that they don't persist. Now, scanning is a very important thing to do. You have to scan. So after you uninstall the malware, what you have to do now is to scan the malware, scan your system again with your updated. Because if your antivirus was that good, the attack already have happened in the first place. So make sure before you scan again, get an updated antivirus or a stronger version of it. A stronger antivirus. Then you scan to see if the attack is gone or not. You have to do port scanning. Port scanning is very, 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 very important. Most of the attacks that happened are through ports. We do something we call port scanning, whereby we scan the open ports that are on the system. They kind of do an investigation on these ports to know they are free, they are connected to the network. Then they pass through it to do whatever they want to do in your system. So port scanning, you scan your ports to see that the ones that are open and they are not being used. Once a port is on your system and they are not being used, close it. Now somebody will ask me, how do I close these ports? It can work by disabling the service. So every service is having a port. So once you go and check and that port is open, but the service is not being used, close and disable the service. Now another way is to do firewall of the ports. You firewall your ports. So there's something we call the UPnP. You go and disable it. Then there's something we call inbound network access. When there is inbound network access, go and disable it. It's not supposed to be like that. Then you can enable the firewall-based system on your system so that once the attack is coming in the firewall, because most of the modern firewalls that are coming now, they are incorporated with the IPS and IDS systems. So they are able to detect and even prevent attacks from coming. So if you enable your ports, you enable the firewall, you enable your port with the firewall, it kind of prevent these attacks from happening. Malware remover, you have different tools. We have malware bytes, and there are several malware remover tools that are there to get your malware removed from your system. All these make sure that you are either working hand in hand with an expert or you know what you are doing. I always say this: either you know what you are doing or you are working with someone. Recover systems, getting back to normal business, which is very important. Getting back to normal business, very, 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 very important. So you can do that from your backup. If you have a backup, you recover back. But make sure your backup is also safe and free from malware. Because I just said that these guys are so crazy nowadays that even your backups on your clouds, they try to get to it as well. So make sure that the malware, the backup you are getting back into the system is also safe. It's also safe. That's what you have to pay attention to so much. Now, the recommendations. I always say that to be free from malware, you don't need to be an expert in the field or something. Every individual has to have a way to protect themselves from malware, of course. The first one is safe browser. Safe browsing behavior on the internet. You make sure you're safe. You don't just go clicking anything that you see. You don't go clicking anything that you see. Most of us, because we want to download the movie at all costs, wherever the link redirects us to, we'll click it. Wherever the link redirects us to, we'll click it. Log out of websites when finished. Once you are doing something, and don't leave your websites on. Always log out of websites because your cookies can be used against you. There's cookie hacking, whereby your cookies can be used to even get all your login details and credentials. Make sure you use strong passwords, which is very, very, very important. Make sure you use strong passwords. I always tell my colleagues to use strong passwords. I gave them an example of a strong password and they were all laughing. I mean, they tell you it's difficult to remember. It's one of the clients that we worked for even said that it is better for him for criminals to have access to his password than for him to forget his own password. So he will keep a simple password so he can remember it than keeping a long one that he can forget. But it's very important for us all to keep strong passwords. Patching, very important. Use updated softwares. Your Windows should always be updated. Your antivirus should always be updated. Install quality antivirus. Install quality antivirus. Someone will ask me, what are the quality antivirus that you can use? Nothing is there. Total AN, McAfee, even Bit Defender is very good. Avast is there. PC Protect is there. Panda. These are very good antiviruses that you can use. Keep anti-malware applications updated. All the anti-malware applications that you have on the system should be always updated so that they can be bug fixes. If there are bugs on it, it can be fixed. Use a reliable firewall. Your firewall should be reliable. If not, you will have a firewall perform scans regularly. Always make sure that the scans you have, you perform scans regularly. Always go to your antivirus, do quick scans. Not every day you have to do quick scans. Get to a time, probably after a week or something, do a general scan. That will take time. Quick scans are probably short. But do a general scan to inspect all your systems to make sure that you are up to date. I believe that we have spoke into details about malware investigation and then digital forensics as well. And I hope that I have whet your appetites regarding malware investigations and digital forensics as well. And I think before I leave and I give way for question and answers or the administrator comes in, I just want to tell you that just like I mentioned earlier, or it was mentioned earlier that I'm the cybersecurity and forensics intelligence officer at Prima Due Diligence Consult. We do all these kind of things. We investigate, we do for cyber forensics. We do all kinds of investigation in cybersecurity. So whatever it is that you need, we draw policies for organizations. So whenever you can, since we are here as individuals, take this to organizations. Whenever you need our help, whenever you need anything, we do cybersecurity awareness as well. Whenever you need us, we are always ready. Thank you all, and I hope that our question and answer sessions gets interactive. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay. So many thanks to Mr. Frank Fiadufe for this wonderful presentation. We have learned so much from you, and I know I personally have at least a question to ask. Our audience will also be having lots of questions they would like and clarification to seek. So kindly stay behind for us a little. And also, thank you, our audience, for staying with you. The first thing they would like to know is that would you be giving out the slides to them? Would you make it available?
Okay. It will be edited, then I'll submit it to the admin of the platform. And not everything here will be given out, but yeah.
I think that one is being clarified. Yeah, and those who also wanted to know, the session is still has been recorded, so you would have the session in case you join late, the full session to start from the beginning. So the floor is now open for questioning. If you have any question, you may either put up your hands and we call you, or you put it in the chat box. So we have Augustine Ngoma. Please, you may ask your question.
No, I think I've already asked the questions that I wanted to ask about the availability of this presentation as well as the availability of the recording of this presentation. So I'm just waiting for the link where you can access those, because some of us joined late.
Okay, that's fine. So for me, you spoke about the ways of, let's say, probably identifying the malware in your PC, which is very, very important in this session, because you may have it on your PC and then you don't know. So talking about it, I found it to be very relevant. So let's say I tried doing the scanning, like doing all forms of scanning. Is it still possible that I don't find the malware? Like, could it be so impossible for you to, let's say, take off the malware out of your system?
Can you come again?
I'm saying, let's say I try all forms of scanning to identify the malware and either quarantine or delete it from the system. is it still kind of possible that maybe I may not be able to identify the malware, or I'm not able to get it, even though it is still there, and I'm experiencing the signs of maybe having a malware onto my PC?
All right. Do I have to answer the question one after the other? Or?
Yeah, I think that will be fine. Yeah, one after the other.
Right. Sure. Okay. So just like I said earlier, the malware is becoming so sophisticated now. So you can have a malware on your system that is disturbing you so much. You feel it, but you scan, you won't get any results. Ask me. Even during analysis, during the static analysis, you can do everything that you want to do. You still not get. That is why it is important to run the malware and watching it in real time. So once it is going on, you identify whatever processes that is accessing and all that. So it's possible a malware can be on your system, you not even find out. Even your antivirus will not be able to detect it. It's very, very, very sure like that it can happen.
Okay. So can we have something like, let's say, some useful or harmless malwares? Can we have something like that? And let me add this maybe to it. For example, you may want to, let's say, use maybe a particular software or tool. Is that okay? And probably you are not going for maybe the right way to, or the right channel to acquire it, maybe a cracked version also. And normally what these crackers do, or people do, is that they try to implement or put certain things over there to override the software, maybe subscriptions, more of like under normal circumstances should be identified as a malware. So is it possible that you have a lot of malwares or these things that are running into your computer, they are running in the background, but they are not actually harmless, or they wouldn't be doing, and it's actually maybe even good, or maybe enhancing your computer or your software? Can we have that situation?
Yes. So one of the easiest way to get malware into your system is using cracked version of tools. That's one of the easiest ways to get malware onto your system. But it's a risk we all take. I think most of the tools that are there that you want to use are very expensive. So you try to use the cracked version of it. It's a risk that we all take. But trust me, that is the easiest way to get a malware onto your system. And you ask a question if there are certain malwares that are not so problematic and can be on our system and not harm us so much. Yes, to a certain extent, a malware like an adware or a scareware may not necessarily harm you so much unless, like I said, there are other purposes for the creation of that malware. So, like I said earlier, one of my researches proved that some adwares are being incorporated with the spyware. So whilst an adware is there, not doing anything to your system at all, there is a spyware spying on you. So if it is not that, if it's not that case and it's just an adware, probably to just be giving you certain adverts at all that you can just skip from time to time. I believe, and scareware as well, it doesn't do anything to you. It just brings up the pop-ups, just like an adware, brings up the pops up telling you that you have to install this antivirus. Once you skip or move from that page, it's gone. So those ones are not really a problem. Unlike ransomware, Trojan horses, the worms, the viruses, and all that.
Oh, okay. Please, anyone wants to ask a question, you may just raise your hands or put on your microphone. Any further questions?
I think Mr. Augustine's hand is up. Mr. Augustine Sungoma.
No, I think it's by mistake. I didn't turn it down when I had sort of.
All right.
Okay. So if there are no any other questions, we can just wrap up the session. So Niboye, please, you want to ask a question? Ni, please, are you there? Okay. So we can just wrap up the session, but I have some special announcement for our audience. So this is where we are making the first announcement. It's a special announcement for you staying tuned with us. Hopefully within next month, next year in May, we'll be having an international conference. We'll be having guest speakers or international speakers from all parts of the world on modern trends in forensic investigations. So some of the aspects that we'll be covering, we will be covering will include forensic biology, forensic chemistry and toxicology, fingerprints and document examinations, definitely cybersecurity and digital forensics, and all forms of crime scene processing and investigation. So if you are on this platform and you are not following us either on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or WhatsApp, I would advise that you do that. We'll be sharing or opening the portal for you to submit abstracts. In case you are here, you are a student, you are an educator, or you are a professional, it will be very good to submit an abstract so that we can have you or capture you as part of the conference. So just stay tuned. Very soon you'll be seeing that the registration will be open for submission of abstracts. We'll be taking abstract for poster presentation. If you want to present a poster, it's open. You can present your poster. If you want to present a session or a section presentation, that will also be allowed. So if you are here, you have your topic that you are interested in, you can start planning or preparing your abstract to submit for the conference, which will be coming very soon, or not really very soon, but it will be coming in no time, within next year, hopefully in May. So there's still an ample of time for you to start preparing and planning. So more updates will be given, or more feeds will be shared on the conference via our social media pages and handles. Please try to follow us. We are on everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere you'll find us. So please try to follow us. Okay, the links to the platform, I will share that just in a few minutes via the chat box.
I think Mr. Nebo is asking a question.
Okay, still fine. You can ask your question.
I think Mr. Nebo is asking if there will be a practical presentation session next time.
Yeah, we do organize practical session, more like crash courses in certain tools. So if demand, so you can send a request to us via the forensic post at gmail.com and we'll consider it. We are almost wrapping up. Okay. Please check in the chat box. You'll find the links to our various social media pages. Do follow us, and you can also be sharing your comments and suggestions, anything. We are always open to listening to you. So a special shout out to Mr. Erasmus Infojo for all your efforts in trying to get some people on board to join us and all the support you've been giving us from day one. Thank you so much, Mr. Erasmus. So we will end this session over here. Thank you all. See you in our next episode. That will be in next month. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Have a good day. Bye.